Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Getting Started with XAF in 2025. A webinar / Suffer Community Stand-Up. We do this once a month, and I think the session for today will be one really special as it brings a lot of memory. And even for us that we do XAF 24/7, a lot of times going back to the fundamentals actually help us a lot to remember where we at and how far have we come along. So I want to mention I did a quick video collection of the getting started video that have been in our path. And the first one, as always, I'm pretty sure most of you guys have seen it, is the one from Seth Juarez in 2013. Right there, that was a really nice, gentle introduction to XAF, and you can even see the graphics on that time and the layers from the UI to the logic, data access, database, and you can see that the picture about all the layers of XAF hasn't changed, and the customization, that is the areas of extensibility, that's the dotted lines, are still there. So most of this is still completely valid, but I also want to mention there are a lot of new things that we want to take in account. So I always say there is never a better time to be a XAF developer, and this time I will say it once more. Let's see here the second video with Dave and Adam, that they build a complete CRM system, and we can see. Let's give it a second. All right, you will see the web forms version that is still heavily easy in a lot of systems that we are still implementing features and so on, but definitely if you are building a new system, we'll go directly to Blazor. Not sure if my connection is being a little bit. All right, so if we see here the UI for web forms in the video from Dave and Adam. We also, this one brings a lot of memory. This was the SAF 101 in 2019. I think this was our first Suffer community stand-up, how to use the learning curve. Oche, really good memories about when we did this webinar and SAF 101. And we did a collaboration later on with DevExpress, and we created this desktop and web business app in hours, complete overview of XAF and XPO. And then on 2022, Don Weaver in Blazor Train gave an introduction about XAF. So today we'll do the same. Today we're going to start from the fundamentals, but we also want to mention everything that has changed, and like you will see how good life has become in the XAF world since we started to now. Coach, I'm going to pass the screen to you and go from there.
Great. Okay, guys, so today we're going to do something that, well, it will be familiar if you have used XAF before. So we're going to do something from the start, an application from the start. But the main difference is that we're going to kind of use the new ways to show how everything have changed. So, okay, let's start like I'm using Visual Studio Community 2022. I'm always in the preview version, so this is like from last week. So things can change a little bit depending on your version, but most of the stuff will be exactly the same. So let's start making a new project. So we do this like 20 times per day. So file new project. And just to show you the new way, even though we're going to do it in a different way later, we're going to use the template kit. That is something that is kind of new in the new, I think it's like in the new release in 24.2 was the first version with the template kit. And it still is a little bit experimental, but it's going to be the new way. That's why we wanted to show you this. So this is going to be demo, like getting started 2025. Okay, so let's create a new, already exists. It happens. So it's going to be live. It happens because I get so many projects that that it's likely that we have repeated names. So this is something that is new. This is kind of agnostic. It will work on Windows. It will work on Visual Studio Code. It will work like that in the one Rider, the one from Intelli, no, from what is the name of that company who make Rider one? Will work like this in almost every IDE. This will work like this in Mac who are Intel based, not in the new Macs. So, but I guess in the end, this will be like the general wizard for all the OS or all the IDEs. So that's why I'm showing you this right now. So here we will pick XAF application, and this wizard I like it more than the one that the one that we had. First, we can because you can change the target .NET framework. So the long term is 8. I guess they will be switching this when they have a new long term. So I will pick 9 because I just like to be in the bleeding edge. The connection string, this is fine. This is what if you have a local DB, this is what you will have actually in your computer. So let's keep it like this. Even though Entity Framework Core has grown a lot as an ORM that is inside of XAF, we will keep it traditional and do XPO or below it XPO. So then we're going to choose which platforms that we want to use. So in this case, we will use both of them. And I wanted to highlight that web before means web forms. Now it means Blazor. So and for desktop, this is Windows Forms, but the new version too. It's a little bit different than what traditionally was on Net Framework. I will include some tests just because I like to do testing. And in general, I recommend you to test your code. This is also kind of new. That before you have more layers for the projects. So the new way is more compact. You have before you used to have 5 projects if you do web and Windows, but now it's resumed to 3, even though internally it's kind of the same. I will show the structure. So for the security options, you can have authentication standard, which is username and password, and you can have something like Active Directory. And what I like about this wizard is that what it creates doesn't contradict each other. So for example, I can, in some cases, because this is really new and experimental, it will contradict. But in here, you can select these two and they will work fine. And then the modules that you want to, to add to the application. In the original version of XAF, like 15 years ago, you have to do this by code or by the designer. Now, like for a few years ago, maybe like 6 years ago, they added like this in the wizard, so you can select the modules at the beginning. You don't have to go and add manually each of them. So for a lot of customers, especially of our students, that was a big deal because sometimes it was a little bit cumbersome or complicated for them. Sometimes the toolbox didn't work and you need to do it by code, and people were not so familiar with the code way to do it. But this works fine now, and I'm going to basically add everything. So you see, like you're also saving this amount of time because you don't have to create these modules yourself. When I teach, a lot of the people tell me like, I like to have the control of everything. I want to do the code myself. Yes, but it's a lot of work. So this is proven, tested for like 18 years or 19 years. So you better trust something that's been working for 19 years than something that you will write tonight or tomorrow or like any other day. Okay, so we have the modules and we have a new module, which is the multi-tenancy, but I will not show that today because I don't consider that is like something that someone who is starting will use at the beginning, even though it's really useful. We can leave that for a different webinar, I guess. So let's create a project. now is spinning off the new project and it's doing, I think it's using the CLI actually. So let's see what we have here. Okay, so just to explain you a little bit of the project structure, we have diagnostic module here. Here, if we check the dependencies, which we will actually not see here, we see them here. There are no dependencies um, to platform code. I used to teach this when we used to have DLLs instead of NUGETs, and to tell the people, see, there is no Windows Forms or web forms here, and actually there is nothing like that. This is mostly agnostic code. So then we have this module is like where all the business logic and not visual parts of the application will go. Then we have the Windows version, which will contain a Windows module, which is here, which basically will implement the agnostic module. And then we have the Windows application. So the same idea goes with the Blazor version. You have a Blazor module and the Blazor application. Before, just for this module in Blazor here and this module in web here, there used to be a separate project. And the idea was code organization, that they used to work under the assumption that everything should be reusable and every part should be a module. So like in actually there was no need to have so many projects, but just for organization purposes, it was done like that. You could have done this layout actually before. And there was way to do it. Actually, I think that Javier did one video where he did all the SAF application in just a single project. So it's also possible. It's mostly code organization because they were aiming for reusability. But most of the time that you make a SAF application, those modules that you have in the application will be reusable within your same application or your organization. It's not so common case that you make a reusable module that you put as a nugget. We have done it before, but it's not a common scenario. And there are other ones that are like that are reusable, like Expand and Safari, I think. So now the structure is way more simple for like, so it's like, it's not so overwhelming. Okay, so let me close all of this. And there also we have this project that is the test project. So right now you can write the test in C# code, which is really nice. So I will show this later. So let's build this for first time. I will do a little change. This change, you might not need to do it, but if you're in a newer computer, like I'm using a Microsoft Surface right now, that is an ARM CPU. So what happened there is that a lot of the database clients are not native to ARM. So you might need to just change architecture. This is something really technical, but I have an article about it. So to do that, we're going to the configuration manager, new, and then we move from ARM or any CPU to x64, and that's it. That will do the magic. So let's reveal this. Okay, so the application got compiled. So let's think about a single module right now. So let's go to the diagnostic module. The diagnostic module still, for organization purposes, contains these folders. In the original version of XAF, these folders didn't exist. The only one that was there that was actually mandatory was the images. Because when you put an image there that you want to use as an icon in the application, the path was resolved to that folder exactly. So that used to be mandatory or still mandatory, but that was the only folder that was there before. So then you have the business objects where you put your domain objects basically. If you're solving an accounting problem, you put the domain objects that are related to an accounting problem. If you're doing a CRM and so on, you put the business object there. And it's not mandatory. You can make your own folders. It's just for organization purposes. And here, before also, like in the old XAF applications, you were not able to see the application user and the application role. It used to be hidden. I mean, there was the compiled version, and then you use that compiled version in the security system. Now, your applications actually put a class that is the application user that it inherits from permission policy user. And now you have access, is declared within your project. So I like this way better because before I used to have to do it myself, add a class, inherit from the permission policy user, do the implementation with the roles, and then change it to the file system. So there was like boilerplate code that is not necessary actually. So also we have the controllers where you put the view controllers or window controllers that will control the interaction with the user and the interaction with the views. So that's the bridge between what XAF is rendering as views and what the user want to do, like like basically actions, like a button, like a single choice, which is something like a combo box, and so on. I will show them a little bit later. Then the database updater, which is a special class that provides the initial data for a XAF application. So what happened here is that when the application runs for the first time, if it's in the book, this is new actually. We talk about this with Dennis, and I told her, why is not creating the roles anymore? Why is not creating the roles and the users? Because if you're in release, it's not a good idea that you should create this. There is another way to do this. But while you're in the debugging or in the development process, you want to just run the application, the first user to be created so you can log in and start working with the application. So in here, you can put any code that initialize your application. For example, in here is the creation of the first user and first role. Well, it creates two users and two roles, like one admin, one normal user, one admin role, and one user role. But you can create as many as you want, especially if you want to do something like a product, like something that is in a box. When you ship it, you want to create the original. Maybe you have like 10 different roles. Like it's an accounting system. So you have like inventory role, like general ledger role, and so on. So it's basically used for initialization. And well, the images folder, we talk about it, is empty right now. Then we have something that is really special, which is one of the parts that I like the most about XAF. I don't use it so much, but it's one of the parts that I like the most, which is the model, the application model. So in here, since I'm in the ARM version, if I double click this, it will fail. But if I change back to any CPU and compile this again, and reload the editor, this happened to me this afternoon. So I guess I will show it in a different application. So what happened is that, let's see, I have it here, the other one. Just let me move it to the main. Let's see if I can open the modulator here. Open the CPU and the boot. Yes, demo effect. Yeah, let's try again. Yeah, we got it. Perfect. So basically, this is one of the most advanced things that you will have in an application. Even in the year 2025, and most of the applications that are created like by hand or like by normal code, by just starting writing code on the IDE, we don't have something like this. This is basically like going from playing with rocks, like to rocket science and going to the moon. The idea behind the application model is that it's an abstraction of all the possible settings that your application will have. So even when there is no code that is being created for us right now, you will still have some application model. The application model is basically all the settings from your application, and you can see them in a centralized place. And also, one thing that I want you to notice is that this file is called model difference, which means there is a compiled version of the model that is within the assembly, and there is a soft version of the model that is a SAF ML, so like SAF, like XML basically internally. So the idea of this is that your application runs, your compiled model is loaded, and then on top of that, you overwrite it with the difference. So for example, usually if you have not done any change in the module, this file will be empty. But in here, I have made some changes this afternoon. So when I open this on the, well, I can open here the file system. I have extension for that. I can go here and I will open the Visual Studio Code. So see, you have just the like smallest changes that I have done, like changing captions and so on. So the XML doesn't show the complete structure. Why? Because the XML will only show what is different between the compile model and what we have on the IDE. So for example, if let's get one of the navigation items, the default, and let's change the caption for demo. Let's go and check Visual Studio Code if I can find the window, because I have a really lot of windows open here. Let's see, did it reload? No. I will close this and open this again. So this is saved. And let's open this in Visual Studio Code again. So see, there is like a new node which actually overrides the original name. And now it shows demo. So whatever I do, whatever changes I do from the compile model, I'll do it in that file, and they will override in runtime the settings from the application. And you can have those changes by user, by platform, and by role. So there are a lot of possible layers where you can override the configuration of the application. And that's really useful. I mean, in general, you can change how the navigation looks like, the captions, the images, the layout of the screens. So it's like a really useful tool. So let's go back here to the project. Then you have the module, which actually, this module implements the other module that we selected on the wizard. So
Jose,
then you have, for example,
I just want to add quickly. I was going to say before when you talk about the Blazor application, but now that you're talking about module is the perfect moment. So if we remember in the past, Blazor applications, controllers, and module, they had a designer where you could actually drag the modules to the specific place and automatically actually generate this code with added to the required modules. Same thing for controller, you were able to add actions, single choice actions, simple actions, and same thing for the Blazor application. So I want to mention that because that is not the case anymore. But in my opinion, I think that is a best approach. I don't think that we were using that as heavily before, and not only that, it was hiding what was happening behind the scene, and that it was basically registered in the module. So I think that right now we have a cleaner way to do things, and when we check later on the startup adding the modules that way, it will even be more fluent about it.
Yeah, and also we talk a lot about this idea, and here is a blog post about it. The back to the future of dev tools. Like we have designers, we have console, then we have designer, then we have console again. So then we will have SQL in text, the new miracle. No, it's not link, it's text. So is here I talk about how everything is a cycle, and then maybe like in 5 more years we'll have designers again, and it will be the new shiny thing, right? So you can always, like in fashion, like IT is kind of the same. So here we have the implementation of all the modules. So see, in additional exported types, you add some types, and in required modules, you add some modules. The system module, for example, is required for every other module. And then everything that we added on the wizard is actually here. So that's how SAF works in a small explanation, I would say, like in a nutshell. And then you have this, when the application starts, each module is instantiated, and then you pass the application, and then you pass this, execute the setup, which is telling like, application, these are your modules, these are your application, and that's how it works. So the first thing that we're going to do here is we're going to add a business object. A business object is a domain object, an object that represents an entity on your domain problem, which might be accounting, CRM, like manufacture, whatever it is. So for that, you have a few ways to do it. You can do it with the developer express templates, where you have all these like nice. This is not a wizard, but it looks a little bit like the old wizard. And here you can select, for example, XPO business object, and the domain object is going to be called customer. And here you have the domain object, which some annotations. Before it was kind of empty, but I think it's kind of useful if you are getting started to see all these comments here. But since I do this like 20 times per day, I'm just tired of seeing them. But it makes sense if you're starting stuff. So, okay, we have a customer, right? So we only have like one method, the after construction here. And then we need to define some properties. For that, I usually use CodeRush. So you have shortcuts like XPS, which means XPO property that is a string. So if I do that, XPS, I can say like name. So there are a few things that I want you to notice here. And first is that there is this size attribute, because string property, when you have to represent it on the database, it will have a limit. So you want to limit to 100 characters and so on and so forth. So the default mapping size is 100 characters. It can be unlimited, which is -1, 2. So if you want to have something bigger, XPS legal entity name. Entities seems like it's like the spelling is right. Why? Well, I will delete it just because I don't want to see that line there. Let's do that again. Okay, and let's say that I want a different size. Let's do that like in 250. So you can either put a number or like use the default size, or put unlimited. So you can also add other types of properties, of course. Basically, the idea is XP, which is the shortcut, and then the identifier for the type. So let's say I want a boolean, it will be XPB. So okay, so we have two properties right now. And the other thing that I want you to see is that we have a special setters. In most of the parts of .NET, you depend on the iNotify property change interface to respond to the changes that are happening in code to respond in the UI, right? So this base class that we're using here, it goes to a base class of XPO, and with some logic, and then we can go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper in so many levels. So see, here you start seeing some type of interface implementation and more interfaces. Actually, this is pure interfaces. There is no base here. And one of these should be I notify property change somewhere. I notify property change here. So every time a property is set, everything that is like listening to that change will refresh. So that's the idea. And so you have this, which is basically inside of here, you will have some safeguards. If it has not changed, you will not trigger the notification to avoid triggering logic by mistake. So if we go to definition, see what is do, check if it's not loading. Then check if the value is the same as if the value is different, and then if it is, it returns the notification. If it's not, it goes out. So that's basically the idea. And if you do it here, if you do a normal property, let's say that you do just PS, which will be string property, you will see that the implementation is different. Inside of the set property value, what is happening is all this logic. It changed it check if the value of the property is equal to the new value that is set. So if it is, it will return and not trigger the notification. Otherwise, will raise the event. So all of that is being hidden from you. So see, this implementation is way longer than just this line. So that is why it's better to use the XPO shortcuts. And if you use something like this, don't do this. In here is like, okay, it's a way more simplified way. Actually, it's possible to track notification changes with this, but there was a problem in the compiler, and that was part of the .NET problems. I think there was a problem in the Roslyn analyzer or something in what that happened in Visual Basic, that when you have auto-implemented properties in Visual Basic, there was a problem notifying the changes. So that is a problem of the .NET infrastructure. It's not related to XAF, XPO, or Developer Express in general. So just to show you the last, the last part is there is a magic shortcut which is XPO actually, which means XPO property that is a generic object. So with this, you can actually choose the type. So let's see, you can do XPO. If you don't know the type shortcuts, I mean the last letter, and then you see you have a placeholder to pick the object type. So we can say like daytime, and we can say like creator on, and that's it. It's like you can use that as a magic shortcut that you can use for every property. Okay, so that's one of the ways to add a domain object, and the attribute that we have here is telling SAF, okay, this is an entry point. It should be in the navigation item. If I don't have this, it will not show in the navigation item. Also, you can actually put an image to this. So you have to put the attribute and then the name of the image in the image folder or in the image library, whatever you have. And then what is the default property? This is part of system component model. It's not part of XAF or XPO. Every class in .NET has a default property that is what you will use to represent that class, the instance of that class when it's within another control. For example, in a combo box, the default property is what is shown as the text, because an instance of an object is a complex thing. It's like it has multiple properties. So which value you render, right? It's like the default property. So in this case, we can say that it will be name of customer name. Okay. The other ones I think is that are not necessary to show. And also this might be important or not, but XPO will make a table that looks exactly like this, depending on the database engine that you're using. In some database engine, it will be created with lower cases, in one with upper cases, depending. In Oracle, I think it will be upper cases. But you can change that with this attribute. You can say, like, okay, this will be ET, like entity, or customer entity. I think that you should have a reason to do this. It's better to use the defaults all the time. So just before we move forward, I want to show how there's another way to add a domain object, and is you just add a class. And actually, I will not even name it. I will put it like this. See, so here what I'm going to do is I will use CodeRush again. So I will use XC, which is XPO class. So let's see XC. This will be customer category. And since it detects that we were in XAF, it picked the right base. If we were in a console project, this would be XP object instead of base object. And let's add a name. And that's it. Maybe a description. And just to show you something, in this case, I'm not going to show to put the default property attribute, because in .NET, in general, the default property, if you have not set any default property, is a property name if it's declared in the object. So even if you don't set it, it will use name because it has a property with the name. So if we didn't have, it will just show the OID or something like that. So okay, it's time to run this for the first time. So let's go back to put it in x64, just because my computer is a ARM CPU, and I will run the Windows version. So let's see, set as a startup project and run. Okay, since when we run the wizard, we added Windows and username and password, I can log in with my Windows user. I can just say, like, I'm not going to log in as an admin, I'm going to log in as a user. And I'm just going to use Windows for that. Right now, what is happening is that, well, here, oh, I'm running another application. I did well, it's fine that I did them here. So basically what is happening when you run the self application, it goes here, and there is something that is called database mismatch, which is every time that you run the application, it compares the compiled entities with what you have in the database. And if it doesn't match, it will actually update the schema of the database to match. So the development can be really, really fast. You just add entities in code, and then when you run the applications, we have this safeguard here. If it's running on debugger, like in debug type of compilation here, so if the debugger is attached, it will update the 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 database schema. So if not, it will show this message. If we were running this on release, and if there is a mismatch, it will show this exception here, like a compatibility exception. So that is what makes for me stuff really, really fast. Before, I remember, like when I was 21-year-old or something like that, I was working in a project, and then we have to go to, I think it was Power Designer, the name of the tool. made by Borland, if I remember well. You have the entity relationship diagram in one tool, then you do the drawing or do like define the entities, then you generate the script, then you run it in the database. So it's like a lot of steps. So once I start using XAF and it's like, okay, I can avoid other people just having a different tool to generate the database for me and I have to wait for them. No, this is like in you do it in 1 second. Before it takes like at least half an hour to ask the other person to do it for you or load the diagram and then do the changes. So this is one of the most beautiful things. Okay, so the same will go for the Blazor application. Since they are using a share module. And by that, I mean that they are using this module here. Both will have the same entities. So whatever we have done on the Windows version will work the same in the web version. So let's run this. And as always, it goes to a different screen. Maybe this will, oh no, I was thinking this will break, but no. Okay, so here we have the same database entities. I can create a new one here. And let's say that this is Sari, Sari LLC, and it's created today, and we can just save, and then we create a new one. BFWKS. It's like a really strange name that is registered. Then created today, so we can, and this is inactive because we use Sari for everything now. So we have the CRUD operations created for us already. So for example, I can add customer, that's this, is inactive. Let's save it. And we can actually just go here and delete it. And then go to Bit Framework and update it and save it. So as you can see, all the CRUD operations are handled for us. There's a lot of boilerplate code that you need to do to maintain any of the entities. Before, I mean, just to make right now, like let's say we go to customers and there is no category here, but we have some categories here. So let's add, name would be category A, same for this, B, and before, if you do it in traditional development, you want to come here and you want to add the category here. You need to do a lot of steps. You need to redraw the form, add a combo box, add a new data source, associate that data source to the combo box, then select the display value and the key value, and load it when the application loads. That's a lot of work. It takes like at least 1 hour just to add a combo box. So by the magic of XAF and object-oriented programming, we can just come here and say like, okay, we want a category. So XPO is customer category. Let's run this again. The mismatch will happen again. The database schema will be updated or UI is updated too. So we just saved just like 1 hour of development with this. most of the stuff that I'm showing right now are actually not related to XAF. XAF uses two different ORMs internally. One is Entity Framework Core and one is XPO. And those are different projects and technologies, but XAF use them as basic building blocks for the application. So right now, see, the customers have the combo box, and we can select it. So and save it, and then we will have it in the list view too. So I didn't have to edit this window either. And this will be category A. And one of the new things, actually, this was not here before, is that we can change the layout, even in web. So try to find a tool that do this. It's like almost none of them will do this. So bam, we have a new layout for the window. And now when we go to Sari here, we have the same layout. So see how easy it is to start working with SAF to make a prototype. I mean, if you know the shortcuts for XPO, and if you know the how the ORM works, then SAF is a piece of cake. So in here you will see like all the other modules that came with the application, like the scheduler module. Here you can make an appointment and like fill all the data and so on and so forth. In this case, the data is represented as a calendar, and you have several ways to see it, like in a day view, week view, work week, month, timeline. You have the reporting module, so where you have dashboard and reports. And then you have the state machine module that I actually love, and they keep it for me, I think. So thank you guys for that. And then we have to think, okay, we have the CRUD operations, we have navigation items, we have a way to update the database every time that something happens. We have the CRUD operations done for us, and we have like the layouts of the screens, everything just with the code. I mean, we just declare a domain object, and we have all of that for free. Let's say that is part of the operation from the module. So usually most applications have more logic than that, right? So there you can, the way to interact with the objects there, like the views that you have created or the data entities that you have created, is by creating controllers. So you can create a controller, and I have some other controllers here. You can do that by either the express templates or just by a class. I will do it with a class. And this will be the shortcut is subcontroller view. Subcontroller view. And we have a view controller, so this will run on top of a view. So this will be customer view controller. And then this will run in every view. It will be activated on every view. But we can define where we want it to be activated. So this, the target object type, is type of customer. Things like super intelligence of Copilot.
Jose,
Uh-huh.
so we have two questions. One, we're going to leave it for the end. Douglas is asking about actually reusable models, about having an independent XAF product and then adding that DLL to a different SAP solution. So we'll answer that at the end. And we have another one that Juan is asking about. It's basically it's not asking, it's just suggesting that we mention the reflection part of XAF, meaning that XAF goes through your model and check your classes, and from there create the views or sends the information to the ORM to create stable. So basically just briefly talk about that and then we can continue.
Okay, so in here we can go hardcore. And I have an article for that. I will just show it and talk a little bit about it. Just 1 second, I just need to scroll through all the articles. Sometimes I get excited and I write a lot. So I wrote a series of articles about this actually. And to be honest, I cannot find it because it's just a lot of articles. But I will talk about that. I have one that is close enough. So in .NET, you have like this beautiful magic that .NET is one of the languages that actually uh, have reflection, which is something that in .NET you will have reflections and dynamic assemblies. That is something that we take for granted as .NET developers, but it doesn't exist in every language. Like PHP don't have it. I think that Python don't have it either, of course. So the idea of what is reflection is a way that a language can get information about their own compiled assemblies. So in .NET, you can tell, okay, I want to know where this class lives, in which assembly it lives, and tell me the properties that are public and that they are declared, and so on and so forth. So you can get meta information about your own code. That is not possible in a lot of other languages. So it's something that we take for granted in .NET, but it's something that it doesn't exist in a lot of other languages. So XAF take advantages of that because what it does is like when you run the application, which is this one. So when you run the application and then you spin up a view, basically the process is it goes, check the data access, create an object space for that, which is a transaction. Then it reflects the properties and tell something like this, give me all the properties that are persistent, that are declared in the customer type, and then it check them against the model to see if they are visible and the state. So at that moment, a few things are happening. The reflection happens, then the compiled model is also being reflected. Then the reflected model is compared with the runtime model, which can be the user or the application model, because there are several layers of that. And that's how SAF works. Most of the stuff that you see here are generated by reflection. And by generated by reflection, I mean that there is a process on runtime that reads the current state of the object and the assembly and the classes. And here is one of the main things that I want to highlight. A lot of application frameworks are basically code generators that you generate the code for a form after you create a class or a table. And once you change that table, you're basically in true pain and suffering because you need to make sure that what you generated before match the new schema or layout or so on and so forth. So the most beautiful part about XAF is that all of that is done and handled for you, and it's also done by reflection. So you don't have to take care um, about fitting your new code with the old generated code, because that happened in all the generators, and that's the main problem of the generators. They are a good idea after you have to do a big change on something that is already created or generated. So that's how the reflection part works. So I hope that I answered your question, and if not, I will. There is a repo here. The repo is actually public, and let me just show you the URL. I guess I will put it.
I also want to mention, Jose, that there are overridable methods where you can actually tell XAF, hey, these are my business classes. Hey, this is my controllers. That way,
Yes,
he doesn't have to look for it. So that's up to you as well. You have control on that.
yes. Okay. I think that to be honest, yes, you can override some methods in the module actually, but I will not consider that something like you will use in the 101, like in the getting started, but it's something that is used to know. I mean, it's useful to know. And the other thing is that, yes, you will shave some moments. I mean, you will shave some milliseconds, but at least during the development time, which is usually quite long, um, I will just leave it as it is. Why? Because you want it to be reflected. You wanted to actually figure it out what you have declared in your code. And then you can just shave those seconds. And actually in runtime, they will be even faster. So yes, you can avoid that reflection process, but it's not that heavy, especially in newer computers. When we started with XAF was around the year 2006 or 7, maybe earlier. I don't even remember now. So we have like 2 gigabytes of RAM and like I don't know, like a 900 megahertz CPU or something like that. So even use Cotros was really heavy for the computers. Now I have an old computer here, which is my old computer, which is in the back. You might not see it there. It's 5 year old and it has 64 gigabytes of RAM. So 5 years ago, that was not so uncommon. And so you can have 128 gigabytes now. So the reflection process is not that heavy, but it does exist, and you can avoid it by doing some overrides and telling these are my modules, these are my controllers, and these are my classes. So what you have, the problem is about doing that is that you will have to maintain. You add a class, and since the process will be skipped, you need to, every time that you add a class, put it in that list, right? So where were we? Here in the controllers. So here it's not this one. I will close this one actually to don't get confused. So here we have the other controller, and actually since I didn't change the name and I didn't add it with the wizard or the
Jose,
template.
just a quick question. On the modules part, on the startup, did we show that the application builder? Did we show that on the?
No, I haven't talked about that. I have it still. Uh,
Got it.
Actually, I will show it after I show the controllers. I want to show one controller, one action, and then show how is the modern way of doing the setup. You can talk about it too if you want. Like we
No,
can.
no, that's fine. That's fine. Just wanted
Okay.
to make sure that we don't
Yeah.
miss it.
Yeah.
Also, the
Actually,
dependency
I have it
injection on the controller as well.
on my
Right.
on my mental map. Okay. So here let's by the magic of CodeRush again, which I cannot write without CodeRush. So name file to match the type, and bam, it has changed already. It's not called file. It's called customer controller. Okay, so these controllers get activated in every view. Every time that you change view, the controller get activated or deactivated. So here we're telling, no, we don't want that behavior. We want that this only activates for the customer's views. So every view that is a customer will activate this controller. And also, I don't want it to activate it in every possible view. I just wanted to do it in the detailed views. So there are a few views whenever you make a SAF application, and I should have not closed the other solution because I need the. Oh no, it's not in this one actually. It's in this one. Just need to change this to any CPU. Every time that we add a persistent class or domain object, SAF create 3 different views for each of the objects. So if we go to the views section here, and we go to our namespace, we have customer, and inside of customers, we have detail view, which is the form. We have list view, which is the grid where we pick which record we want to open, actually. And we have the lookup. The idea of the lookup is like if we go to the customer category, we have a customer category lookup. So this will be like the combo box that will exist in other views when those views refer to the customer category. And here we have also the layout of the detail view, which is another beautiful part of SAF. Here I can organize my view in different ways depending on the business need. And also I can create my own views. I can go here and add a view. I will add another list view. And this list view will actually point to the model class customer too. So let's see. Yes, I remember that this happened, so I need to find application and it's not sorted by yes customer. And then let's add a name for this. This will be a custom view. then there are no columns, so let's right click. And here we can generate content, and it will generate the columns. And in this case, I just want name and entity name. All of these, I will actually delete them. So see how easy is that to create a view, because views are abstract concepts. They exist only in the model. And they are figured out by, okay, we have the compiled model, they are not there, but in the soft model, which are the difference, they are actually there. Since that is the layer that goes in top, it will say, okay, we have a new view, let's spin up that view. So also the same goes for every part of the application. We can create a new navigation item, and we have this navigation item that's called demo. So let's add a new navigation item, and we will call it custom views. And here we will add another item, and it will be a new navigation item. And this will point to the, how do we call it, like custom view, I guess. Custom view here. And the caption will be my custom view. And then let's find an image for this. And we can select, actually before you have to add an image or know the name of the image. Now we have this way to pick the images, and I will suggest you to use the SVG image because it resize. You don't need to add several sizes. So for that, let's add this with a tie. And where are we adding this? To which module? Okay, I guess it's in the agnostic. So save, save, save. So we have a new list view. And just to show you how it looks like, here we can go to the file system and actually open this in VS Code. And see now the model difference that we have is bigger because there are more difference with the compiled model. So the more changes that we do on the model difference, the more text that we'll have in this sub XML file. So here you can see that we have another list view that was created. I mean, the default three ones, the list view, detail view, and lookup list view that are created for a domain object are in the compiled model. And then the additional ones, you create them in the model difference, actually. So let's from here, and let's go back to x64. Let's run this on window just to show a different. So let's start a project and run. So we will have a new navigation item with a new list view also there. And the view controller that I created also will activate only on the detail view. So I will put a breakpoint here. Let's log in with Windows. And see, we have a new navigation item, and it has a new icon different than the customer. Here we have our contact icon. And this has less columns than the one that we have here. Both of them are pointing to the same detail view because I just created the list view. I didn't create any custom detail view. So if I open Sari here, the controller will be activated. And if I go to this one here and I open Bit Frameworks, the controller will be activated. Why? Because they both into the same view. Okay, so what we do with controllers, when it gets activated, we can get the view and change something. That is kind of a common scenario. We can say, okay, let's see the state of the object and let's change a value or something. But usually controllers are used to host actions. There are 4 different types of actions. I'm not going to show all of them right now because it will be like, it will take too much time, but I will show the basic one, which is a simple action. For that, there is a shortcut, which is XAF action simple. So XAF action simple, change state. And the ID will be change state. It's going to be in the category view. And what it's going to do is, we know that this view hosts a customer. So what we'll do is like this view, it has a current object, the object that we're seeing, and see like GitHub Copilot is doing their work. It's like hallucinating something. What we're going to do is we're going to cast this to a customer. And now that we have the casting, here the properties that we have are the ones from the customer object. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn it around. So, and maybe we should do this like, this is CodeRush, so I will do like introduce blocker for all the occurrences, so I don't have to cast it twice. Yeah. So here what we do is that we get the current object, and then we tell, okay, whatever state you have, let's turn it around. Let's do it backwards. And then each view contains something that is called an object space, which is basically an object space is a transaction. Since the view was loaded, the object space is keeping track of the changes. The changes can happen in multiple objects depending on how complex your object is. And then the list of changes, I decide if I should commit them or discard them. So in this case, we're going to commit the changes. So let's run this again. And let's wait a little bit. And the control is being activated. And okay, we have the change state. So this is inactive. If I click here, now it's active. If I click again, it's inactive. So that's how you interact with the view. Okay, so just to show what you can do on the activation process, let's do something super simple. This change state, enable equals true, false, sorry. So basically here I'm deactivating the action. You can do more things than that, but just to show you like, okay, this is the moment that we are loading the view, and we can just make some decisions about the object or the state of the view or anything. Okay, it's being activated, and then we're going to change the state. So the action will be there, but it will be grayed out, so I can click it anymore. So see, you can decide like what things to do. Okay, going back to, sorry, with what Javier highlighted is, okay, this is kind of the SAF 101, but there are some things that were different before that we want to highlight them, and we actually put them a little bit here on the README. I guess we will continue growing this repo even after this stand-up. So we are here in the controllers. we saw a little bit of the object space, we saw an action, we saw the model, and now let's see the modules. So basically each application have to set up the module. So if we go to the start, this is the modern one. Before, the modules were declared inside of the application, and by application I mean the Windows application or the Blazor application. And you will see a variable that is the type of the module, and then the initialization, the instantiation. But now it's a little bit different. The approach is more modern, which is with the startups. Both applications have a startup right now. So you can see, for example, you have the builder. So you make a builder to continue configuring the application. So you can say like add audit trail, add charts, add cloning, add conditional appearance, add dashboards. So this is how the fluent way of adding. I guess if we go here, let's check the cloning module. You will see the original code. I have not checked what is inside of the extension. So see, no, you don't see it anymore. It's, well, in here you just add you have the options, and then you delegate the creation of the module. But before, you will see something like I can write it here. So before, you will see something like this clone module, or object module. You will see something like this, and then you pass the cloner, and then you do something like this. So this will be the application. So this boilerplate code is reduced to the extensions. Each of these will be is related to one of the models. So if we go here, you will see that it's declared on the application builder namespace. So every time that you dot something in the application builder, you will see like the possible extensions there. And the same way goes for Blazor. So you have a startup, and then you have the same thing here. So there was a moment where there was a disconnection between these. So doing the introduction was even harder, because you have the Windows Forms application using the old way, and the Blazor application, which is something that happened since NetCore around 2018. With Javier, we were the ones to make the first commercial Blazor application that went on production. And we did it with the CTP or BET or something like that, because we like to be in the bleeding edge and to have some type of software. So it was complicated at that moment, because how you set up the Blazor application looks totally different from how you set up the Windows application. And in that moment, also the web forms application. Web forms and Windows, they used to share the same configuration way. And Blazor was totally different. Now all of them look the same, both with the startup files. So that's something that is kind of new. So I'm glad that is the same way in both applications. So that's what we talk about here in the README. Also, there is something that is new, is that you can write the test in code now. So we have the test project here, and I'm a big fan of the testing project. So if you see that I do file new project, the pin project is the unit test project. So because for me, a unit test is basically a console project that gives you multiple startup points, basically. So you can test the applications using, when we run the wizard, we selected that we wanted a test project. So in here in code, you can do some things. For example, here you have a method to test the Blazor application, and here you have a method to test the Windows application. So see how easy it is. You drop the test database, then you create an app context, and then you run the application. This is basically is an application that will be instantiated for you. and then you can manipulate with these some methods like get form, get action, do some type of assertion. So let's run this one. Let's debug this one. This will actually compile on easy test, get that assembly, spin up the application from there, log in, navigate to some navigation items, and just check if they exist. Check if these actually navigation nodes exist. So like it's a beautiful way to test your application because you're testing the application like with a human. So see, it's logging by itself, no hands. So that's kind of a neat way to do it. So let's see, of course, it's taking longer because it's a demonstration. That's why always it takes longer. But maybe also because the database, no, there it is. So it logging into the application and now it's checking that all these are true, that these navigation items exist. It's checking, and then see, it's moving through the through the navigation items because it's looking for them. So again, no hands is doing that alone. And in the end, we'll assert and the test pass. So it's a beautiful way to test your application. It might look like it takes time, but you can generate this with Copilot, I guess. And also, the thing is that the normal flow of as a developers that we do is like we do some changes and then we go, we click in the view, we blah blah blah. It seems easy when you do it one time, but you will not do it one time. You will do it 1,000 times. So you better write those lines and then you just play the test. It will save you a lot of time in the end. It looks like more time consuming at the beginning, but also you can continue releasing application versions. And if you have enough tests, you just run the test and you know that most of the scenarios will run. And if the test succeed, if you're golden, like you will not have problems in or surprises in production. Okay, so what else do we have here in the README? We went through almost all of this. Well, the simplified project structure, I already talked about it at the early part of this conversation. Then to the end-to-end testing, and then something that that we have that is, I think, something that can be really useful for new people that is joining to the XAF community, which is the static analyzers. So the static analyzers are those things that are checking the compiled code or what is going to be inside of the compiled code. So it's also being reflected from the text that will give you some warnings. For example, the business objects. Let's say that, okay, we have customer and customer has category. So we can say like instead of this.
Yeah, one of the most
Annoying and beautiful.
annoying errors, it has always been like every time that you have an association and then when you run your system is when actually you realize that you didn't have it right. Now it complains at you and let you know beforehand. So that's a really good one.
So for example, if I do XPA to do an association, this is most XPO in general, and say like customer category, customer category. This will assume that there should be, I guess it's because I had it before, yes. Oh, I still have like that. Let me undo all of this. Okay, beautiful. My code rush got crazy because it happens sometimes. Yes, and let's delete this part. Still crazy. Let's see. Now I have like 1,000 errors. Can we undo? It was not even committed, so we cannot undo. So what is the problem here? This is also bad. Let's delete this. And now, what do we have here? This was wrong. A lot of things, but okay, that's why you have to use sort controller. Okay, so let's do the category. So let's close this. Maybe let's commit. Or I make another mess. And okay, this is running. Let's I don't like when you have the here the okay, it's good. XPA customer category. So this is telling me already that the association only have one side, that I'm missing the other side. So I need to go to the category, which is here, which I need to actually rename. If I too much type. If I do the XPCL, and this will be customer, customer, and see, right now, it's not completing anymore. Why? Because we have the association in both sides. So it's kind of annoying because you will complain it will complain at the beginning because you will always have to do one side and then the other. But it's really good to know because before it sometimes was impossible to figure out what was wrong. And so you have the static analyzer that is giving you some information ahead of time before you actually try to compile and move forward. And there are a lot of static analyzers. So I just show one of them. You can check them in the documentation. Also, the other thing that is kind of new that is working fine right now is the dependency injection. That we were talking with Javier about this a little bit before, and is now now it looks like Xamarin Forms used to look, in the sense that let's say that you have the agnostic module, and then you have a service. Here we have a service. We have an interface, which is get platform name, which returns a string. And then we have an implementation, which is an abstract class. So it could be a concrete class. It doesn't actually matter, which is platform info. So we actually create to return the correct platform name. We inherit this class on the platform level. So in Windows, we have services. We have platform info win, which inherits from this platform info, and overrides the method and returns Windows. And the same goes for Blazor. We have a service here that inherits from that the same class and returns Blazor. And when we go and check the startups, let's open both. We have the registration. So here we say builder services add scope. We register the interface and we register the platform specific implementation. And the same goes for Blazor. Here we have the platform specific implementation. So if we want to use this service inside of a controller, we can use it in the agnostic module and it will return the right implementation actually. So if we go here, you have this DI controller, which is dependency injection controller. There are two ways to get the service provider. There is one that is you add another constructor that is somewhere here. This is the other constructor, and this will receive the service provider, and this will call the original constructor, which doesn't receive the service provider, which is this one. And here are the actions declared. And also, so this is how you get an instance of the service provider. You can inject it in the constructor, but you have to have two constructors, one with the service provider, one with no. And the other way is just to get it through the application. The application now contains a service provider. So where was that? Here, we can get it from the application. So we have this application service provider, and we can return the same implementation of that iPlatform info. So you can get it from the constructor or from the application. And that's basically it. So let's run this so we can see it running. So let's run Windows first. So since we are overwriting diagnostic implementation, this should return Windows when we click that action. And it will happen both from the service provider, from the constructor, and the one from the application. And in the meantime, I can start this one, I guess. That's been activated, so let's start this one. Now let's wait. Maybe I will make a mess, which I actually did already. So Windows. So show platform info. This is Windows. This is Windows 2. And okay, let's give it a try again. Debug start new instance. And let's wait a little bit. And there are other places in your application when you want to use the service provider. So in here, just to show you that it's the same implementation. This is Blazor, and this is Blazor 2. So also before I created a domain object, and if I create a new instance of this object, I can, it's not here.
In the platform name right there.
Yeah, but I thought that I had an action for that. So I just wanted to close it and show in the code where it will stop actually, because I use it in the after construction. So here, if we go to the module, we go to the TI business object. In the after construction event, from the section of XPO, we can get also the service provider and get the service and get the platform name and set it to the platform name property. So I just will put a breakpoint here. So if I do a new record in any of the platforms, it will be the same. It's agnostic. Here, new, the after construction get executed, and this will say Windows. And since we're running both applications right now, I can actually go to the Blazor one and do a new one, and it's stopping again, and now is Blazor. So you can use the dependency injection in at the business object level or at the controller level. So those are the most common places to use it. You can have other scenarios, but these are advanced scenarios, not for the 101 introduction. So I think that we are actually in the end of this presentation. Let's just double check the...
Right here, Jose, just really fast, talk about the central package manager. I think that that's a good thing just to not let out. And I can show quickly a property editor, and that will close the loop.
Okay. So
and then we have several questions on the chat to the end.
Nice. Okay, so before we move forward to like almost the ending of the presentation, there is something that is new on the just 1 second before we move from topic is before we close the dependency injection. The dependency injection is something that is a first-class citizen now in .NET, from .NET Core, from the .NET Core 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 now. But it's not a new concept. Actually, I just want to give like kudos to Manuel. Manuel Grauder, like another DevExpress MVP, long time ago, he wrote something, this blog post, which is, I don't know, like 15 years old, something like that. I don't know if I can see the date here. 21 of February of 12, 2013. So imagine how long ago he had to rewrite a lot of parts of SAF to do the dependency injection, but it was totally possible. So I just want to show that SAF applications are common .NET application, and you have access to almost every part of the application in code. And also you have the source, so you can recompile it and add new parts. So I wanted to highlight that it's not a black box. That's it. So see how all is this. Before GitHub was popular, there was Codeplex, which was the portal for sharing source code of Microsoft. So okay, it's time to move from the to another topic, which is the central package management. This is something really new, and it's also a conversation that we had with Manuel like 8 years ago. So sometimes you want to use variables in your projects. For example, this, if you check the references, they don't have version number, and it will go the same for each platform. They don't have version numbers. Why? Because you can keep the version numbers in a centralized file, which is here in the directory properties. This file is a special file. What you're seeing here, this node that you will not see it actually in your computers, is because there's a new extension from Mads Christensen from Microsoft, which is called the File Explorer. So they add a folder here with the structure of this folder actually. So I can see here what is in the file system. This will be equals to do actually this. It's the same. So, but you have it here in the studio, so you save some steps. So here you have the directory properties, and here you have them. It's basically the same. So this hosts the versions. For example, DevExpress app is version 24.2.3. And if we go to the agnostic model, here's the app, but this without version, because why is taking the version from the directory properties. So in this file, since it's in the root of all the other projects, it will dominate the value. So if you define a variable here, you can actually use it in the projects. We use that in the sync framework, for example. We have a directory props that sets the values for all the references. So this is not a new idea. This hub exists forever. With Javier, we bought a book like, I don't know, like 10 years ago about the Microsoft Build Engine, where it was the only book where they refer of the documentation of this. But now it's getting more to the surface. So it's a really neat idea, because if you want to change version, you just go here and just change the number to like 25, and it will change the whole solution. So it's a beautiful way to do it, because it's more centralized. Of course, you can go to the project itself and then set the specific version, but why would you do that if you have something like this? So that was the last part, I guess. And let's commit live demo done. So one more thing. Okay, Javier, so we go
All
to
right,
your
Oche,
slide.
so I'm gonna share my screen just to close with the property editors. We already have questions about amount of users, so we'll talk about that in the end, performance. And of course, one of the latest things that we discuss is UI related. If we go to my blog and we just type UI, probably we're gonna more good looking examples, and we are actually creating a new post with part 3 of the UI customization. So customizations, right? And this is the other one. So right here you will see a lot of samples, a screenshot of UI customization done with XAF from the detail view to the list view to modifying the template to the navigation to custom controls to custom view items to Kanban to charts to maps to diagrams. And with Blazor is even better because we are able to do a lot of things easier, a lot of interaction with JavaScript easier. So you can take a look at things that you can achieve. But basically, what we need to understand are the layers that SAF have or the way that SAF works. Basically, SAF, if we are in a list view, has a list editor, and if we are in a detail view, we have several property editors. So if we are able to modify that, we're able to show any UI uh, that we can imagine. Actually, when we were using web forms, we were more limited, but right now we're doing projects where we can say confident, hey, give me a Figma design that your designer put together, and we go from there, and we make it as close as possible as that. Of course, I always mention the power of XAF is that in most of the systems, you have a few screens that need to be really customized, but all the other ones, we can keep it in the software, and XAF take care of and as your model grows, your views grow, and so on. So the example that Dev Express have on their documentation, I think that it needs a little love, in my opinion, because if you see, we have right here our input text model with our value property and so on. Then we have our property editor type string, so on. But what I don't like about this example is that when they come here, they make the type of input text instead of putting a separate razor component. So let me tell you what I'm talking. So right here, this is the new way of doing property editors. And the old way we had, and let me put this one here just to mention it. We're not gonna go over the old way because I think the new way is really slick. So right here, before we have to create the model, we have to create the adapter, we have to create the property editor, and then we have to create the render, and the render have to have a create method that actually returns a render fragment and so on. So it was more layers involved. So right now, you have a model, and you have the property value, and then you have, let me just go back, and then you can put event callback, you can add your own properties here. So this is the model, and then you have the property editor. Right here, I put an alias in case we're gonna call it in code, but basically it's type of a string. And then we're gonna create our new text model and do the basically call the uncontrolled value change, grad value, read values on. So what is the issue here? So if I run this, let's give it a second. In my opinion, it kind of hides what is happening because this input text model is using this component that is input text that is coming from the namespace from ASP.NET Core, components, forms, and so on. And just to mention, I add that to the username property of the application user. So this is the same property editor, the custom string property editor. And if we run it, you see we have this input text here. So basically we replace the component that XAF has for this input text. But because that one comes directly from the namespace, we don't see how that took place. So the idea here is simple. So you create a razor component. We have this razor component, the far one that is an H3. And then whatever we have here as a public property, we can put it here as a parameter. So in this case, I just push the parameter value and I make an H3. So now let's go back to input text model here and let's replace that for component. And let's run it again. All right, going to the other monitor. And if you see right now, then it's an H3 that is taking the value. Let's come back here. That is taking the value. So right here, you can start getting crazy. You can go at ChatGPT and asking, hey, can you give me an HTML, or if you are really good on the HTML side and so on, then you basically can do it yourself. We always support ourselves a little bit with cloud or something. Hoche and myself, we have never been the best UI designer, but basically you can put any HTML here that you want, and you can make it as beautiful as possible. So let's say that and I don't know even how this is going to look because I just ask, give me something, but basically I can say the same value and then run it. So you can start creating these UI that are more sleek, beautiful, and basically the limit is your designer and your knowledge of HTML. So if you see right here, it make a really big user icon with the username. So that's basically if I go to the database and I change that username because right here I have it not editable, that will change here. If I then pass as a parameter the value change, I will be able to invoke value change and change accordingly when that value is modified. So that's how we can create really, really involved UIs that can get this for. So if you think about this, all of this size is a property editor. All of this is a property editor for the type of reference contact. This is a property editor for the type vehicle. This is a property editor for the total for the property. So you can get, and the nice thing is that you can go then to your model and then you open your detail view and then you can change username. Let's say that you have that really beautiful property editor, you put it to the side and you build your UI based on the model and based on top of the property editors. So same thing will be the same idea for the list editors and so on, but basically the possibilities is what you're able to design, imagine, and your knowledge of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. All right. I think that will be all. We cover from starting from scratch, project structure, business object, controllers, module, business application, dependency injection. We cover the central package manager, the new application builder in the startup, the new way to add modules. We talk about, I think, basically everything that we have seen as a getting started and SAF 101 to actually get you guys excited of what we can achieve and what we can get with our beloved application framework. I want to, Jose, go back to the questions just so we briefly cover them. The first one was at the beginning of the session, Douglas asked about reusable modules. That one is one that is close to my heart because I don't know if you guys remember, I was a student of Hoche. So Hoche actually trained me like it seems like a past life, a lot of years back. But the first contact that I have with Hoche was me asking him, hey, how do I build a reusable module? And Hoche, I'm gonna let you answer, but basically the question is it possible to have a module that I can refer from an independent XAF product, adding as a DLL or reference into a different XAF solution?
Okay, so there are many ways to do that. There are more modern ways. You can basically package that as a nugget. You can make it a completely independent module. And there is also some configuration that are in the documentation, but they are buried like in thousands of other documentations where you can, by configuration, load the modules. Just get the DLL, put them in the bin folder, add that part of the configuration, and it will be loaded by reflection. So I think it's still there. We don't know because they have been updating the documentation. I don't know, Javier, if you have seen that lately, but I saw it like 3 years ago for the last time.
They
So
have an article about best practice of creating reusable modules based on the view variants module. So But the idea is the same. Like we have access to the source code of XAF that we always recommend go take a look what they're doing, how they're doing, and you can see the example of what of that questions. The answer is absolutely because that's how they are doing all the modules that we can add to our projects. There are things that you need to take in consideration. So if you are trying to do associations with some classes that you already have, that will give you issues. So you need to think about your modules as a definitely a complete reusable modules with its own tables, with its own view, and like work from there. And then review their shortcode, review the
And
posts that they have, or we can have a
also,
separate
Javier,
discussion about that later on.
I think that we have a video in the YouTube channel, either in yours or mine. It's not new. It's like 3 years old, something like that. Where not where we create a reusable module, but we show how to load a module by reflection. That you have your application running, is deployed already running for a few years or days or whatever. And then you get a new module, you put it in the folder, and you load it without using the IDE. So that will be a different approach in Basel now, I think. They don't have information about that. But if you check the video, you will see how it can be done.
Beautiful. Anyway, that as always we say like happy to continue this discussion. Just send us an email and we can go from there. Um, Second question, Jose, will always be like, and that one we had it like uh, repeated questions. Like Santiago asked for it, Casin asked for it, like SAF Blazor, software as a service, amount of users, and so on. So go for it.
Okay, so my 2 senses are yes, you can really support a lot of users, but a lot of things that we get this question like every other day, I guess. And the answer is yes. It can support a lot of users, but it will depend on two main things. In your own design of your application, if you're loading a whole application every time that you do a click, if you're loading all the ORM and all the related tables, of course, it's going to get really slow. But the limitation is mostly on the infrastructure. So if you use something like Azure Signal services and app services, you can scale like really big. And if you have a performance bottleneck, will be mostly about your own design. We have run like 1,000 users in a Linux server that is like $10 or $15, but they were doing nothing basically, just a simple view and so on. So a lot of the performance issue will be depending on your own design. And also, the second part is how you host your application. Cloud providers like Azure, they have a special like Signal service and things like that. They have an example with Kubernetes where they spin up like containers all the time depending on the demand. That is the most useful way to do it, and that's the most correct way to do it. But also requires understanding of infrastructure mode. It's not about the code itself anymore. It's how you manage your web service. You can do that with Nginx. Also, you can make a load balancer with Nginx and have separate instances. And also, you can make the same load balancer with Apache. I'm not a fan of Nginx because I was an expert on Apache. I used it since I was 14 years old. So, like, uh,
I only want to add, Jose, that we do have clients with a lot of users in web forms. So
yeah.
I just want to mention that because if that's possible in web forms, definitely possible in Blazor. Uh, the SAF XAF by itself, of course, will not check every box, but you need to like have its clear plan that goes from the database side, execution of your queries, SQL execution plan, and to all the side to optimize your code, to optimize your model and deployment tactics. So definitely that by itself is a whole set of discussion topics, but I will say that I believe that dev experts have to be really cautious with how they present their information to not overpromise, but we don't. So we definitely have done crazy things and we definitely push it to the limits. And then we can say that XAF is a really one of the best tools to develop line of business application. So
Also, Javier, just before that I cut you off, before we close this topic, you will have that problem in any .NET application or every like Python application. So the scaling problem is like a different set of problems, a lot related to infrastructure. So you will have it in every framework, every application, every platform. It's not SAP related.
So there was another question about training, about if we offer training for the new person. I just want to mention we definitely offer training in XAF, but we don't go in the specific of C Chat, ASP.NET Core. So basically that should be knowledge that you already acquired. And there is a lot of great content, a lot of Microsoft MVP, a lot of Udemy courses with awesome information from the fundamental. I definitely say always XAF give us all the tools, but you should actually go and learn the platform specific. WinForms, Blazor, Web Forms, everything that you can do on those platforms, you will be able to do it with XAF. So after that, I just want to say hi to Jean Paul. He's always sharing really good information. He actually was mentioning, Jose, I missed that when you were creating the controller. One really good practice is disable the action when the object space is modified. So I want to
Yeah.
throw
Uh,
some
um, JP is for Copilot. Basically,
exactly.
he's always like sending like
Yeah.
suggestions, like you should do this, like
And especially all of them is XPO, but we do have several projects in the entity framework. And if we get stuck, Jean Paul is our go-to.
yeah.
So after that, I think that that basically cover all. There is one last question that I want to just for everyone new starting. DevExpress have a trial period of 30 days, and they are asking, is there a way to extend that? In my experience, if you email client services, they will always extend it for at least 15 days, 30 days. So you have from 30 to 45 or 60 days uh, time to play with the framework, a lot of community content, review it, and hopefully you are excited and you join us on the community because definitely there is a lot of things to do, and we are also adding a lot of AI everywhere. So you will see more content of XAF with AI. And please also share what you guys are doing. Let us know how XAF is helping you in your personal projects, in your professional projects. We have been thinking of doing one of our first students case study because he by himself has created I think around 27 XAF apps. So it's something crazy like that, and it's amazing when you see someone that started from zero, from scratch, and then you see him like maintaining a huge amount of application, being successful, being able to resolve real problems, and having the community back for everything he needs is just beautiful. All right,
Yeah.
Ocha, I think that that will cover all the questions that we have.
Yeah, just to before we close, it's like we have several students that they come from organizations that they were against SAF because a lot of people is against frameworks in general because I don't want to like be attached to a framework, and they became hyper successful within their own organizations. Most of them handling 30 plus applications themselves, and then they have another team that is like two guys for one all Windows Forms application, and they handle like a lot of them. So I think that is the way to go, especially in like a big organization.
All right, guys. As always, thank you for coming. We thought it was going to be a 1 hour webinar, and we always get excited and extend that time. So we are almost at the 2 hour mark. We had a lot of attendees today, Hoche. Like normally we have a lot less, and we have like 50 suffers. So I'm really happy about that. As always, we're gonna keep doing this type of webinar uh, here and there, and we're gonna continue with our SAF community stand up every month. And you know what to reach us. We love to have this conversation as always about XAF. You guys have a wonderful day.
See you.